Hello again. Welcome to Real Simple Recovery. I hope everybody is having an amazing day so far. If you're not, take this opportunity to turn that around right now because the attitude that you bring into your day is a choice. So make the choice to have yourself a great day. If you haven't done so already, take a minute to subscribe to this page, Real Simple Recovery, and that way you can get these videos on a weekly basis. Today, what I'd like to talk about is step one, the admission, the surrender. Notice I didn't say so admission, surrender, and acceptance, right? Notice I didn't say submission. And acceptance doesn't mean that I am a slave to it or that I even have to like it. It just means that it's the way that it is. Some people do not come into the recovery process jumping for joy. I was pretty happy to get into the recovery process because, I was nervous, I was scared. So if you're scared, if you're not sure what's going to happen, that's cool. Most people are. I didn't know what to expect in the recovery process, but what I did know was that I was pretty tired of the life that I was living. I didn't know where I was going, but I sure as hell didn't want to go back to where I'd come from, if that makes sense to you. So welcome to the world of recovery. Step one is simply admitting that we are powerless. What does that mean, powerless? It means that, if I've tried to control it, if I've tried to manage it, if I have over and over and over again had troubles in my life as a result of addiction or some other behavior, and I've given many efforts to try to change that behavior, but I still keep doing the same thing, or if I have made promises to myself or made promises to others, or in my head said, I'm only going to drink so much today, and then as soon as I get it inside of me, what happens to me is I get a new idea and everything changes. And so, if you're here and you find that you are struggling with whether or not you are powerless, what I would like you to do is go back and look at all the times in your life when you thought you could control it. Look at all the times in your life when you thought you could put it down and were unable to do so. It doesn't mean that we can't stop for a period of time. I've done that many times, but I can't stay stopped. And when I start going again, the addiction grabs a hold of me and I don't know what's going to happen. The biggest indication of my powerlessness personally was that every time I took a drink or did a drug, I could not safely predict what was going to happen in front of me. And maybe that's your case too. Is I never knew what was going to happen. And I knew that about myself. And towards the end of my drinking, I would set a bottle of whiskey down and I would crack it open and I would say to the bottle, here we go, because I didn't know where we were going. I would just drink it knowingly. They say that insanity is repeating the same things over and over again, expecting a different result. And I think something that would be closer to insanity is doing the same things over and over again and knowing exactly what you're going to get. I knew that it was killing me. I knew that it was wrecking my life. I knew that it was unpredictable. I knew that I was going to end up either hurt or hurting somebody else, or I was going to get in a fight, or I was going to wreck a car, or I was going to go to jail, or something was going to happen. I knew that, and yet I did it anyway. The punishment of the legal system for the drugs and the behaviors that I participated in when I was under the influence of either drugs or alcohol was not enough to curb the behavior. The warnings of medical professionals that told me I was going to go nuts and never come back was not enough to stop me. The pleas of my family members and my loved ones to stop with all the love in their heart was not enough to stop me. The loss of the custody of my own children was not enough to stop me. And so if you're sitting here and you've stopped and there's been some sort of an intervention in your life, whatever that looks like, for me, it was the Palmdale Sheriff's Department, pulled me over one more time. And there was this moment of clarity that happened when I was sitting in that jail cell where I saw everything clearly, and I didn't have any hustle left. I didn't have any new ideas left. I didn't have any way to get myself out of it. And there was an absolute and total 100% surrender that happened. And what was interesting about that experience right there was when there was a moment of surrender, and that is necessary for everybody to reach a moment of true, absolute, sincere surrender. When I reached that moment, I was at my absolute lowest, and there was a voice in my head, and maybe it was God or something like that, but here's what I heard: everything's going to be okay. And what happened after that was I had the ability, because of finding other people to help me through the recovery process, I had the ability to implement a program of recovery in my life sufficient enough to keep me from ever having to go back to drinking or using. So step one is the surrender. Step one is the admission of powerlessness. This thing is kicking my ass. I can't do it no more. I quit. I give up. I surrender. It just has got me, right? And that is what step one is. That gets you in the door. Once you're in the door, then you need to apply the other tools that are going to be laid at your feet from anybody who's in recovery. If you are new to the recovery process and you need help, anybody else who's in the recovery process, including myself, if you ask for that help, we will absolutely give it to you. And we're not going to, you're not putting us out. It's not out of our way. It is part of the recovery process that in order for me to keep what I have, I got to give it to you. And so I'm looking for a newcomer to come and ask me for help. My whole life depends on it, literally. If I'm not given back, I will slowly get back to the place that I was before I came in here. And I don't ever want to go back there, because I know without a shadow of a doubt that I am 100% powerless. Just as much today, 17 years later, I am just as powerless today if I pick up a drink or a drug as I was the day before I got in here. And step one is the most important step in the process. It's the most important step in your recovery. If you ever forget that you are powerless to this thing, you will probably end up trying it again and testing the water, If you're not comfortable calling yourself an alcoholic or an addict, that's cool. You don't have to. Nowhere in any of the literature does it say, step one doesn't say we admitted we were alcoholics. It says we admitted we were powerless over alcohol. It doesn't say we admitted we were addicts. It says we admitted we were powerless over our addictions. And so the admission is the powerlessness, not the label of what you want to put, what you put on yourself. I think there's a excuse me, I think there's an absolute humility in saying out loud, I am an alcoholic. There's an absolute humility in saying out loud, I am an addict. And so maybe you get there, maybe you don't. But if you're not cool doing that, that's your choice. The admission is the powerlessness. I admit to the powerlessness, and that is sufficient enough for me to put my foot in the door so that I can continue to work the other steps that will keep me in the door. So again, if you want to see these videos, I hope that's helpful. I hope that if you're new, you find your way to stay in the rooms, because I have found no more beautiful place ever in my life. And so welcome home. I hope you stay, and I hope you stay tuned for more of these videos.